What's up, everyone? I just want to make a short video on on my closing impressions of Lima, Peru. I got back into Mexico a couple days ago. I spent about 4 months in Lima. Um, these are just some impressions of some of the pros and cons of Lima. Um, the thing about my first impression of Lima it's very much a first world. Well, the infrastructure is very much like a first world country. So if you're trying to make an adjustment, you don't want that adjustment to be too difficult from a cultural point of view. Lima is a great place to explore and maybe consider living. In general, for most expats, I really wouldn't recommend it. But if you need a more of a first world infrastructure, it's great. As an example, they have a whole bunch of grocery stores like I think it's Vivienda, Metro's another one, Wong's. You can go there and you can get lunch. Usually they have two levels. You go upstairs and they have like little cafeterias. You can buy snacks and really good food to eat there to take out. It's not too expensive. They have sandwiches. That's another thing. They have sandwiches like the U.S. or Canada. They're not too expensive. Pricing's a lot in these stores is fairly close to at least to the U.S. It might be cheaper as compared to Canada or Australia, but one of my friends, she's from Australia, she thought some of the prices were even a little higher than Australia. But anyways, for that kind of thing, that kind of infrastructure, you get really good quality food. I take out and stuff like that, and you can just eat there too if you want in the cafeteria, really affordably. But um, that kind of thing isn't really widely available in Guatemala, at least in my experience. So from that point of view, it's really fantastic. The other thing, my impression is the real estate is very overpriced right now. There's an incredible boom on there in real estate. If you go there, you'll see the cranes all over the place. So they're building like crazy, and soon the Lima economy is slowing down quite a bit, as is most of Latin America and Western Europe and even the U.S. Um, the boom has caused prices to go through the roof. So if you're looking to rent like a one bedroom or two or three bedroom, it's going to cost you quite a bit more. It's not as bad as New York. If you're coming from New York, then it'll be cheap. But it's priced like a lot of the U.S. You'll spend 800 to 2,500 for quality wise, maybe not the equivalent quality of the U.S. Um, Other things to consider is the traffic. In my experience, some people will disagree, but the traffic's even worse than Mexico City. I know people complain about it, but I was in it a couple days ago, and it's a breeze compared to Lima. It's a breeze. Traffic there is awful. It's really horrible. But a positive about Lima is they have quite an extensive bus system and a train system or subway system. And if you, it's a learning curve. So if you take the time to learn it, you can get to where you want to go, but it might take you 2 hours. I don't know how long it takes to get from one end of the city to the next, but I can imagine it could be 2 hours. So that's good, for the buses and getting around. Taxis, my experience, taxis are quite a bit higher than even Colombia or Mexico City. That's kind of amazing. But anyways, that's what it is. Um, Working, from what I've seen, wages, unless you're a professional and highly qualified, wages are on par with Mexico or even less than Guatemala. I was surprised to learn that call centers actually pay more in Guatemala or Mexico City or even El Salvador. It's just it is what it is. But when you consider the wages, if you're going to make local wages, it will be a struggle to live there. So if you're on a tight budget, you can do it. But because of all the pollution, it might not be you might not be worth it. You really need to consider living in the interior of the country where it can be quite a bit cheaper. Another issue is there's a huge immigration problem with the Venezuelans funded in. I can't say how many is in there. I've read hundreds of thousands, but at least hundreds of thousands without papers and hundreds of thousands with papers. But it's caused a real problem with just sympathy from people. People are begging on the streets quite a bit and on the buses. So that could affect your stay there. It didn't affect my stay much, but it's really quite in your face. It's really sad to see all these Venezuelans flooding in, but there's really no well, there's not many jobs for them. Um, it's sad because some of them, I imagine, have college degrees, and you can see them basically selling, chiclets on the street and drinks and stuff like that. So immigration is starting to have an effect there, so they're tightening up. One positive I will say about Peru is you can get an education visa very, very easy. A few friends were in the process of doing it when I was there. It takes about a month. It's really not that expensive. And as long as you don't have any legal issues, you can get your police background check. You get that at Interpol in the city there. You don't get it. You don't bring it from your home country. Assuming all that, and assuming you're enrolled in a top end school, or like IGNA, that's where I went. It's pretty standard. You'll get it. And then after 2 years of study, in some cases you can apply for a permanent a passport. You can live there permanently. Um, anyways, from that perspective, if you need a legal place to live, and you want an easy visa, you can study. I think up to 2 years or more on the education visa. I don't believe you can work on it, but you can study there and then work online or do whatever your gig is on the side. Overall, the capital in the wintertime it's pretty cloudy. It cools down quite a bit. I arrived in the summer, so it's pretty hot. It's really, really hot. Um, the surrounding areas is very nice. There's a lot of cool things you can do. You can go up in the mountains. You can go into the wine country. It's really not that far, like 5 or 6 hours or less. Going up into the mountains, in a few hours you'll be up in the mountains, and it's really awesome. It's really beautiful up in the mountains, really peaceful. I went up and saw a church there. It's really fantastic. It's really quiet and peaceful. Uh, Up in the mountains, things cost quite a bit less. There's less hustle and bustle. It's really peaceful. So if you're looking for a weekend getaway, there's quite a bit you can do there. If you go into the wine country, you can ride the dew buggies and do wine tours and stuff like that. So from that perspective, it's pretty nice. But the quality of life from day-to-day living, if you have to work there or you're studying, it leaves a little bit to be desired, at least for me. Even if you have a high income, I'm not really sure it's worth it. Other people think so. I don't know. It's not for me. I'll just say that. But to live a good quality life as a single guy, you at least need a couple thousand, maybe 2,500. Raising a family on that would be difficult, but you can do it. Um, so as far as that goes, it's an easy way that you can really, if you're from a first world country, let me just say, you can land in there. You take your passport and your school papers if you sign up for a school, and you can basically get you can get a permanent visa to study. So, and that you can start set out at least a couple of years. My understanding is after 2 years you can apply for a passport. So there it is. Anyways, because the cost of living is a little bit, I wasn't used to that. Basically, the cost of good quality housing. You can get cheap quality housing. There's no problem there, but get good quality housing at an affordable rate. There's just other places you can live that I think are it's cooler. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Just my opinions. I'm back in Mexico soon. I'll be back in Guatemala, and I'll be making some videos. I'm gonna probably sign up for some health insurance. I'll tell you how that goes if I do, anyways. You can get health insurance in Guatemala very, very cheap. Anyways, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thank you. Have a good evening.